Hi, and welcome to Cruise Norway's Team Talk. My name is Mari, and I am from the sales support part of the business. We are starting this new adventure, this new chapter in our travel company's life. We are moving to YouTube. We are going to do different kinds of talks. We're going to talk about our salespeople's experiences with different cruise lines, with different destinations, with different times of year, all these kinds of things. And today, I am very happy to welcome Daniel, who's here with me, to talk about the two cruise lines who sail daily on the Norwegian coast. Hi, Daniel.
Hello, and thanks for having me on today. Joining you here from Seattle, Washington.
Perfect. Before we get into the actual topic, can you tell us a bit about yourself? How long have you been in travel? What's your background? What's your experience like?
Yeah, sure. I've been working in the travel and tourism industry for 10 years now. Previously, starting my career out in Asia tourism, Asia tour operations for a boutique luxury company for over 5 years. Also having experience in hotels with a destination marketing organization and getting to do some freelance projects as well prior to joining Hurtigruten and getting my start in the expedition cruise industry back in early 2020 with a hiatus during the pandemic, and then coming back to Hurtigruten, and finally in September of 2022, moving over to join the wonderful team here at Cruise Norway. A lot of other former Hurtigruten alumni, and been here ever since, and really enjoying being on this side of the industry, working as a senior expedition advisor and selling not only expedition cruises, but also a lot of Norway coastal cruises as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I myself am from the Hurtigruten family as well. I was with them for just under 10 years, and now after having a couple of babies, I'm now with Cruise Norway since the beginning of 2023. For the viewers, we are recording this at the very end of 2023, so if you are watching this video later in life, in a couple of years maybe, then some of this information may be outdated, but we will be discussing the two cruise lines as they are now, what they do, how they do it, and what your experience was like, Daniel. Before we start, can you please tell me when did you travel to Norway, and what was the route you took?
Sure. So this was my first trip to Norway, and having worked for a Norwegian company and then another company owned by a Norwegian here in the U.S. and called Cruise Norway, I figured that I needed to do it right and spend a lot of time in Norway and really get to see and experience as much as possible. So I traveled there in October of this year. It was a great time to be in Norway. It's kind of what I figured, what I had expected in terms of being able to have that beautiful fall weather in the south of the country, but then the winter-like weather in the north of the country, also there during the Northern Lights season, which was also fantastic. Had a couple of really spectacular nights within the Arctic that we did get to see and experience the Northern Lights. So for my recent trip, I started off it was a round trip Bergen all the way up to the most northern point of Norway to the North Cape and the town of Honningsvåg, and then all the way back down to Bergen. And I did that with two different cruise lines on two ships, and then I also had some time to explore a couple of cities on my own.
Oh, perfect. So you are in a very good position to tell us all about both of them and the experience you had with both of them. We oftentimes get questions about why should I go with one or the other. So we will now find out. So where did you start off? And who did you start off with?
Sure. So I started my journey in the lovely city of Bergen, second largest city in Norway. And after 2 days of exploring on my own, I boarded the MS Trollfjord with Hurtigruten. And it was their brand new North Cape Express route. So this is kind of, if you are familiar with with their 12-day Norway Coastal Express, as well as their Norway Expedition cruises. This is kind of a combination, a hybrid of the two. It has one port per day, and the cruises are much more inclusive, whereas they are going to also, in addition to your meals, you get unlimited alcohol and non-alcoholic beverages, and also, like I said, those ports, you're going to be there for half a day or a full day to really get out and explore and experience them. And however, the ship itself is a former coastal cruise ship that had been updated and kind of retrofitted to improve the customer experience.
So between the regular coastal route and the North Cape Express, if I remember correctly, those ports are not the same, right? It's not, they're completely different. You go to Alta, for example, that's not on the coastal.
For the most part, it's different. There are a few or a handful that are going to be the same. However, it's not the same experience because you're going to be there for a much longer period of time. And there are some new ports on there as well. So this ship does not deliver mail or have a car deck or do any of the things that the classic coastal cruises would offer. And it is purely for tourism, not just for the locals. So it's really going to be all international folks on board. A real good mix. On our ship, we had a large group of travel advisors. So there was a lot of Americans and Canadians. But I think on most cruises, it's going to be a good international mix of people. The ship is, does have up to, I believe it is 600 passengers on the Trollfjord, and the cabin options are going to be basically the same as what you would find on those coastal cruises with Hurtigruten.
What kind of a cabin did you have? Tell us more about the cabin experience on the ship.
Yeah, sure. So I had a Arctic Superior cabin, which is very nice. It is kind of tight quarters. That is kind of standard on the classic cruises because again they are partial leisure cruise and ferry service. So they're not really designed to give you the most amount of space, and also they want the guests to be out and enjoying the destination and the experience, not just cooped up in their cabins. But they have upgraded aspects of the cabin, so it is again very nice. The window, great size to look outside. They had replaced the carpet. There's a nice armoire, desk, TV with plenty of options there, and then private bathroom. So really everything you need. And again, for one person, perfect. Two people, a little bit tight, but definitely manageable. And they have other great options as well. You could, if you're looking for something less expensive, you could start with the interior cabin option, and then if you needed separate beds, they also have those options within various cabin categories for the twin beds. And then for the best and biggest cabins is certainly going to be their suites. They even have a couple with balconies, and those are very large and nice and spacious. So if that's what you're looking for on the Trollfjord, then it's definitely available.
Yes, on the Trollfjord, if I again remember correctly, the only cabins that have balconies are the very top tier suites, right? There's like 2 or 4 of those cabins on the ship.
That's correct. I think the Explorer
Mm-hmm.
Suites is
Mm-hmm.
what those are called. But yeah, just those, and then they have other suites that do not have the balconies, but they're also very large and nice. So those would be more suitable for families or maybe
Mm-hmm.
looking for something nicer like a honeymoon trip.
Tell us about the food.
Yeah, so the food it has been upgraded compared to the Coastal Express. Fantastic. So they've got the standard dining room that is going to be buffet during the breakfast and lunch, and then the dinner they have the 3-course meals. And again, being with the group, we were having our dinners all together, kind of assigned tables. But in addition uh, to the main dining room, they also have a bistro called Aran. And that is where I had all my lunches because I'm not a huge buffet person. So breakfast buffet was enough for me. The Norwegian breakfasts are fantastic. I mean, whether you're at the hotel or on the cruise ship, they do a great job of providing so many options, about 20 different types of breads. And
Oh,
yeah, and so to choose from, yeah, lots of smoked fish and fruit granola, a lot of healthy stuff that I like to eat, but then you can also get kind of the traditional English breakfast as well. So they've got, so many good things to choose from. And then, yeah, again, for the lunches, the Iran Cafe or Bistro was fantastic. And, that's, it's a Norwegian, but also, yeah, kind of like a modern Norwegian restaurant. And I had the opportunity to have things like bone marrow and reindeer dishes and a lot of great seafood. Even just like a classic cheeseburger, they did a great job on that. So that was
is the bistro included in the price or?
so both of those restaurants are included. The bistro's first come first serve. So yeah, if it's busy, you could have to potentially wait. So I mean, you can. It doesn't hurt to come a little earlier, a little later, just to make sure. But it tended to get busier for dinner. So going there for lunch, I never had to wait. And then they also have a fine dining restaurant as well that does have an additional charge. It's approximately 40 US dollars upcharge, but that is a 5-course meal where they do, and that amount I mentioned is actually with their alcohol package, so it's less without that. But they do a wine pairing with every single dish. So they have a fantastic sommelier that picks out the wines that's going to go with each dish, and the very awesome thing about that restaurant is they change the menu daily. They don't
Wow.
decide what they're going to be making that day until that day, and every single dish is different day to day. So it's very impressive how they're able to pull that off and present it in such a fun and exciting way. I joined a couple other travel agents. We were all pretty blown away. Mostly seafood. One of them with us didn't eat any fish or seafood, so they prepared her dishes without or just differently, and I mean she thought it was fantastic nonetheless. So if you have any dietary restrictions or food allergies, they can accommodate everything, and they do a great job on that. And again, if you're just doing the buffet, they label things very clearly, so you can certainly choose items that are going to work for you.
How about vegans, vegetarians? Are they all covered at every meal?
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, again, they can accommodate any food restrictions, as far as I know, and yeah, they will take care of every guest accordingly. And the menus are very well labeled as well. Like thinking of the Iran, that menu that I looked at every day for lunch. Yeah, they labeled everything with vegan, gluten-free, etc.
Perfect. I know on their coastal classic routes, Hurtigruten prides themselves with the freshest you can get, sort of catch of the day type of dinners and bring on the local produce from each of the ports they go to. Is that standard kept on the Troll fjords?
Yes, they do that the same way. It is still essentially the Norwegian classic coastal kitchen, but basically it's more of an upgraded experience because this cruise is more guest focused since they do not offer the ferry aspect of the voyage.
Mm-hmm. Next, I would like to ask about somebody having difficulty walking or getting around. Could they go on the cruise, and how would they accommodate?
Absolutely. So first of all, they do have handicap accessible cabins. So those are going to be much larger, especially for the bathroom. So you can, and it's all completely flat too. So there's not the usual step up to get into to the bathroom. So you can just take if you're on a wheelchair or have a walker, you can easily get right in. There's the handlebars and everything, and then the cabin itself is going to be much larger and more spacious, so you can come right up to the side of the bed. A lot of the standard cabins, you just get enough room to walk along the side of the bed. So yeah, they can accommodate guests that way. The hallways are plenty big. There's elevators around the ship, and you can easily go and access all the amenities as well, even getting outside. It's all the doors are automatic, so as long as you swipe your hand, they'll open up, and plenty of time to get out. And also they do have the wraparound deck. I believe that's going to be deck 6, so you can still get out even if you had a wheelchair, and you could fully enjoy the scenery just like anyone else would. So I would go out there and do my my morning walks, do some laps. I believe they said that 4 laps around the ship is 1 kilometer. So I would try to start off by doing that after breakfast. And then, once you get to a port, they have they do in fact have the ramp. So you could certainly get down and with a wheelchair, walker, etc. The only issue that I would warn is the fact that in the northern destinations and throughout winter, it does of course get a bit frosty, snowy, and icy. So once you're off the ship, you could encounter those surfaces that would maybe be a little more dangerous. So if the weather's nicer, I'd say exploring on your own would be easy. But if it's not as nice, I would recommend doing the excursions, paying for those, because they'll be able to accommodate.
Did you go on any excursions?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was able to go on excursions on the first full day and then the last full day. So the first excursion was in Molde, and they took us over to the some World War II site, and we got to see the bunkers and the cannons and everything. And where it was perched up was just in this small town. It was just very beautiful scenery and very cool to see those historic war relics. And then we also went on the Atlantic Road. So that's the very scenic and beautiful road that cuts over different islands, and it's just very picturesque to take that route. And then we went all the way during that day over to, I believe it was Rorvik, where they have the marble mines. And they took us inside the mines on these kind of platform boats, and they have it lit up really cool. It's very cold, of course, in there, and they take you all the way to the back where they have the fresh spring water, and then you come back out to their kind of reception room, and they serve miner's soup. So that's a traditional soup that they, not necessarily the best meal I had while in Norway. More basic. But I remember they did have this really awesome ice cream afterwards that was like a big block that they set down, and you just scooped like a slice off it, kind of like a cake. And so that was a really neat experience. And then they took us back to Molde, and they have a kind of traditional sort of village where they had moved these really old houses and preserved them, and they give you a tour and explain, how people used to live, and what the different buildings were for. So that was quite interesting. That was a super full day tour that they, I did that with the group of travel advisors, but that is a type of excursion that basically anybody can sign up for as well. And then my last excursion, I was the one that I paid for. I thought I had to do it. It was the king crab experience in North Cape. So they start off early in the morning. They take you to the water. They have these basically there's the fishing houses there on the piers, and so they do the crabbing. Lots of king crab there, and then they have these really cool traditional buildings that they take you in, and they have the live crab. They teach you all about them, and then they have the crab cooked, and you get to eat it fresh. And they have some traditional music and things like that going, and of course like coffee and tea. So it's a good way to start the day, kind of a second breakfast. And then lots of great, photo opportunities. And then we're back in the bus, and we're making our way. It's about 45 minutes, I think, to get up to the North Cape. So we got to also stop for photo ops. There's no trees up there, so it's kind of a barren landscape, and especially with all the snow. Again, in the far north, it starts snowing pretty early, and we then made it up to the most northern point of Europe, the North Cape. Very impressive visitor center up there. They've got it was a lot more than I was expecting. So you can get out and see. There's the main monument or statue, and then there's some other ones, but you have to really get bundled up because it is cold and windy up there. I know it's a popular road trip destination. Even that time of year, we saw camper vans, and I think in the summer, people take their motorcycles and all kinds of stuff. So it was really neat. And then within the visitor center, there's a big theater. There's different exhibits and dining and shopping and all kinds of great stuff to explore, which was nice because you only want to really be outside for just enough time to get your pictures and then come back in.
Yeah, for sure. So how long? I understand you finished Hurtigruten's cruise up in Honningsvåg.
No, so actually, I was on the 7 out of, it's a 15-day trip, so a 13-day voyage. The first 2 days they have 2 days in Oslo, so that's 2 hotel nights with a full day of touring. And that is going to be offered through 2024. I believe they're removing that for 2025. But anyways, I did the 7 days, 6 nights. So we ended in Tromsø. So the fourth largest city. It's a beautiful town, a college town as well. And then I stayed there for 2 days on my own. So I really got to explore the city fully. And that's where we finished the journey. And then after 2 days, I boarded my next cruise from there.
So tell us about that. What ship?
Yeah, absolutely. So then after getting to experience Hurtigruten and being on the being on the Trollfjord, I wanted to experience another cruise line that we sell, Havila, which is does the classic coastal route along with Hurtigruten. They're the new players, so they have the brand new ships. Four now. I was on the Capella. Granted, they're all identical, so it does not make a difference which one you're on. I got to see a couple of the other ones as well. I actually saw the Capella several days before I boarded it while at a different port. So that was kind of neat, knowing that I was going to be on that ship later. So I boarded the Capella. It was I had to board at midnight based on the sailing schedule from Tromsø. So I boarded the ship, and then I was on it for 3.5 days, all the way back down to Bergen. So it was a much different cruise experience because we were stopping at so many different ports for shorter periods of time, especially on the southbound route, and I had to be a lot more strategic in how I planned out my trip because I needed to know when we were going to stop somewhere and how much time I had and what I was going to do. Because if you only have an hour in a town, there may not be a lot to do, but you probably want to know in advance, of like where the attractions are or what you want to see. But it was pretty neat because I stopped in some places. I got to do some cool things that come to mind. For example, in the town of Stokmarknes, I got to see the Hurtigruten Museum, which they house an old ship, the Finnmarknes from the 50s, and that very historical. And I learned a lot about Hurtigruten. It's right there at the pier as well, very convenient. We were in the town of Svolvær at night, so after dinner I got to go to this ice museum. And it was in a pier, and they have a bar, so they serve you a drink and go around, take pictures. Probably more fun to do with other people, but I still enjoyed the experience. They give you a big fur coat to wear, and they have all these really incredible ice sculptures. And then I also got to see a couple of other small towns, just kind of walking tours. There were some days where the ground was kind of icy, so it probably they also had things you could borrow, like the I believe they had the micro spikes that you could borrow from them. So they do have some gear, I think. So that helps, and then also got to spend a morning in the third largest city, Trondheim. Very beautiful. Wish I would have had more time there, and then, sailing back to Bergen. So my experience on board, if I compare with the Hurtigruten, with the Trollfjord specifically, it is a much newer, much more modern, and much more open. So the design, the floor plan is, you can see across. There's probably more viewing area. There's more window space, but whereas Hurtigruten has more of I think the design is a little more elegant, more classic. Havila is going to be more modern and more kind of airy and open. The biggest benefit was the cabins. I had a Seaview Superior double, pretty standard and much larger. I had a separate living space, and of course the double bed the same, but just a lot more room to move around. Much more suitable for a couple people. I spent more time in my cabin because there weren't as much time for the ports of call, and I was also traveling solo, so I did spend some time working as well, which was nice to have the big desk and all the extra space. They both have mini fridges on board, so you can really bring your own beverages. I mean, they do charge. You can also get the drink packages as well, but it gives you the option there to keep your own beverages from the supermarket cold. So that's kind of nice. And then And then the amenities. Also, they had the jacuzzis. There's 2 hot tubs and the sauna. So I had more time to take advantage of the those nice amenities on board as well. The food was also really great. And there again is the main dining room. So the interesting thing they do is they assign you a table and a dining time. You get to kind of choose the dining time amongst some options, whether you're an early eater or a little later of an eater. And then that's when you go for all 3 of your meals every time. So it's much more regimented. And I was dining by myself the whole time, so it gets a little old after a bit. But if you're with your family or partner, then it is nice to have that designated table. So it's you know where to go. You go in, and the staff was all fantastic, really, on both ships, and then the food also good. They do not do buffet. It's a la carte, but basically they have in the center of the dining room, they have a chef station. So they're preparing the items on the plate. So it's kind of a buffet, but they're bringing it to you. So it's all ready to go, and it's very quick, and you can, or get an order of bacon, eggs, and then you want another order, they quickly bring it over. You want other things, so you order as much as you want for the breakfast and lunch, which are both done in that manner. And then the dining again is going to be a 3-course, just like with Hurtigruten, and that's going to be choosing from the different items as well. They also have great wine or other beverages you can pair with those meals. Again, with Hurtigruten, the beverages were included. Certain ones, whether you were ordering at the restaurants or at the bar. So with Havila, it was going to be all a la carte. So then, for example, I had a glass of wine with my dinners, and then they would just charge me for that at the end of the voyage, along with any excursions. I did not do any excursions there because I had already done some that or one of them that was already offered, and I just typically like to get out and explore on my own as well. But a lot of guests were participating in excursions. They seemed to be very satisfied with what was offered there as well. So I mean, that was again, very different experiences, and otherwise, they're both great options. So it really depends on kind of what you're looking for and your time frame. But both provide fantastic experiences. And then for myself, finished the cruise in the early afternoon or mid-afternoon back in Bergen. And then I was on my own for one more day before an early flight out the next day. And also the port, the ports in general, everywhere, very convenient locations. You can get out and walk, and they're typically located right in the downtown areas. It's only one port, I think it was in the town of Alta, was a little ways away from the main downtown, where they did offer a free shuttle to with Hurtigruten to take people to the main area, but otherwise you just get out and walk around, and just pay attention to the time to get back, of course, for the ports of call, and then also being on board the ships. Now, two big differences about the scenery with Hurtigruten's North Cape Express. We're covering larger distances to get from one port to the next because we're going to be spending all day there. So I felt like we were sailing a bit further away from shore, so I did not find the scenery to be as spectacular. Granted, we did encounter a pod of whales one day, which was, really was really awesome. Right when we were right outside right near the ship. So we had some great whale sightings. But then for the Havila cruise, because we're stopping at all those different ports, we're more so hugging the coast, which provided for better scenery. And we even got to go, even in late October, they took us in all the way to the back of the Troll Fjord, which was fantastic. So I really enjoyed the scenery more on the ship, the second cruise. But yeah, that was just, it kind of has to do with the sailing route. The ships are pretty much the same size, so they do have the ability to go into the same areas.
What about the onboard experience during cruising? Were there lectures? Were there, I don't know, movie nights, anything like that?
So yes, they have lectures on the North Cape Express with Hurtigruten. They had lectures that were more about the destinations and the culture. So I found those to be real interesting. On Havila, they had lectures more so about the excursions. So I mean, probably not quite as interesting unless you are planning to do those excursions or you're interested in finding out more information. But they don't have any movie nights or anything. So with the Hurtigruten cruise, I mean, since we just happened to have better opportunities for the Northern Lights, and then with the open bar and being with the group of other travel advisors, there was more for me, to do in the evening, more lively. On the Havila cruise, it was definitely more chill and relaxing, but I mean, that just again can kind of depend on your specific situation and experience. So.
Sure. Now, this being your first time in Norway, what did you find different than what you thought it was going to be like?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, Norway is or Norwegians, I should say, are very outdoorsy and active people. I mean, I knew that, but you don't really know until you go in there and experience it firsthand. I mean, for example, in Bergen, I took the Fløibanen, the tram up the side of the mountain. Well, after work, all the Norwegians are just hiking the mountain for fun and back down sunset before it gets dark. So I was surprised how many people were out doing just more like leisure walks for a lot of people with their friends or their dogs. That was cool to see. I mean, very fit and outdoorsy people, and which, I mean, I consider myself to be like that as well. So I personally and enjoyed that. But the other thing too is the culture. I mean, being that it is a country that is in the far north of Europe, it is there aren't as many influences of other people and culture. In the U.S., it's certainly more of a melting pot, and you can get any type of food, and you see a variety of people. I mean, in Norway, for the Norwegians, the only non-white people were probably those that were adopted or, maybe students or some workers. Here and there's a little bit of other types of food you can get, but it's all kind of the same stuff. For example, like there's some Chinese, Thai, there's some kebab places. I mean, that's about as international as it's going to get cuisine-wise. But otherwise, it is a very pristine and beautiful place. The nature is really unmatched to anywhere you're going to go. It is definitely one of the best countries for natural scenery, which is why it's so great to cruise the coastline, because there are weeks worth of cruising up and down the coast you can do to really see and experience the scenery to the fullest. And then, I mean, if you happen to spend more time in the cities or venture inland, there's whole different experiences that you can have.
Did you miss anything that you didn't pack that you should have? And the other side of the coin, would you now leave something behind that you did bring with you?
Yeah, sure. So I feel like, I mean, as an avid traveler, I feel like my packing's fairly good. So I feel like I packed just fine. It's important to keep in mind that there's no formal wear, there's no dress code or anything. So there's really no need to bring any of those clothing. You're gonna want to bring layers and dress warm. So one thing, I mean, I did end up buying a nice a better pair of gloves and like a neck gaiter because I mean, if you're out hiking and walking around, it is cold, so you definitely want to have that good gear on. But the layers, with different jackets or a nice coat is certainly good as well. And great walking shoes are also very important. So I mean, so really just come prepared with good clothing, but they have great stuff in the shops on both ships that you could purchase. There's again, Norwegians being the outdoor lovers, they've got those kind of shops all over the place, so you can get more warmer, better outdoors clothing. And and I mean, also, for these cruises too, there's a lot of older folks that really love them, and they spend more time just sitting and enjoying the scenery because they've got big windows, lots of great seating. You see a lot of people, especially on the classic coastal cruises, doing things like reading, playing on their phones, playing games, knitting. So just kind of passing time, watching the world go by, and not really my thing per se, but I like to be a little more active and adventurous in my travels. But I could absolutely see the appeal of that as well.
You mentioned that you worked on one of the ships as well, or both of the ships. How's the internet connection?
Yeah, so the internet was great on both ships. I never had any issues or anything like that. I also had to make phone calls back to the U.S. I had to call some cruise lines call centers, and I never had any issues with phone service either. And was able to keep up on even communications with family. So that worked perfectly fine. The sailings were smooth. There was again, with the North Cape Express, you do sail a little further out at times, so there you can certainly feel the movement a little more, but no issues with seasickness or anything. So for those that are maybe more prone to motion sickness issues, I think the cruising in Norway is really good. I heard it's maybe a little rockier in the middle of winter, so maybe avoid that time. Again, you can still see the northern lights as early as October and as late as March. So those are also great times to be there. Again, you do get that varied weather, so you're going to have the more fall-like or spring-like weather in the south. The north is always going to be winter-like unless it's the middle of the summer. It's provides a lot because it is such a long country. It changes, and there's a lot to offer.
Yeah, maybe in defense of just winter and cruising during the winter as well. My first ever cruise in Norway was with Hurtigruten, was on the Trollfjord in December. So I had no idea how I would react. I'd never done anything like this before. So we get on board, and the first night in, I know that I'm not going to make it if I don't get something. So the ship offered C-bands, which are these acupuncture little wristband things that you can wear that are supposed to help you with seasickness. They did absolutely nothing for me. But as you were saying about the ports being so close to downtowns, we were sailing along, and one of the servers at dinner noticed that I was looking a bit pale. So they asked me how I was and if there was anything they can do to help. And I was explaining about my seasickness, and they said in the next port the stop is only 15 minutes, but there's a drugstore right outside of the ship, so you can go grab one of their over-the-counter pills that help really well and that the ship's crew always uses. So I did just that, ran back in. Since they opened the gangway in every single port anyway, then there's no, trouble of if you just want to get your feet on dry land. But yes, it was definitely rocky during winter. So one of the things to keep in mind if you do want to travel in the peak of Northern Light season, then to bring something that helps you, whether it's the wristbands or badges or pills or whatever it may be, then think definitely bring those as well.
Yep, yeah, good suggestion. I mean, I think on any cruise, especially unless you're an avid cruiser and you know how your body's going to react, it's always a good idea. I had some Dramamine handy as well, just in case I needed it. So yeah, nice things to keep on any voyage. So, and also, I mean, with if a storm came in or any just real windy days could cause the ship to feel a bit more rocky.
Yeah, absolutely. And if the storms do come in, then there's since there's so many ports and stops, the ship may just decide to skip a few smaller ones so they can be safe and then make up the time later on in the day. So in conclusion, anyone who wants to travel to Norway, maybe hasn't cruised before, maybe hasn't been to Norway before, what are your top tips that you would like to give to our viewers?
Sure. So for anyone traveling to Norway, I'd say definitely take a cruise in Norway and definitely spend some extra days as well, because the cities also have great things to offer. And, if you're coming in for a cruise or even after, it's nice to have some time on land to be able to experience what for example, the city of Bergen, beautiful town that certainly deserves a couple days to visit. But yeah, the cruise, I would say cruise as much as you can. If you only have a week, then that's fine. The classic north or southbound route is going to be just fine. But if you're able to spend more like 2 weeks or more, then you could consider the full 12-day round trip voyage, or or doing something like the North Cape or Svalbard Express, which again are going to be up to 15 days. So those are really great way to see Norway. And some people think traveling up the coast and then back down that you're doing the same thing. It's really not. It's different stops. It's different ports or different amounts of time, different times of day at port, and it's different excursions are offered, and it's a different experience. Also, the other thing, for my next trip to Norway, I think I need to see Oslo, the capital. Didn't make it. It's also very popular to take the train from Oslo to Bergen. There's also a lot of great other outdoor recreation. For example, skiing. If I was there in the winter, I would probably try to go skiing in Norway. And there's a lot more to experience. But cruising really maximizes your time with the most little amount of effort. Of course, you can rent the car and try to plan this real elaborate itinerary and where you're staying and everything, which it would be great, and maybe add that with a cruise. But yeah, absolutely look at the cruising options. I mean, both Havila and Hurtigruten have wonderful cruises. There's some distinct differences, but both are really good, and will really allow you to maximize your time within Norway, particularly along the coastline.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Daniel, for your time. To our viewers and listeners, you can find the best deals to cruise in Norway always on cruisenorway.com or on our socials. And if you want to talk to Daniel directly, then his contacts are in the About section of our webpage, where you can find all of our great expedition advisors and the rest of the crew that we have. Any last words, Daniel? Anything you want to leave our viewers with?
Well, I think that concludes it for today. But I would like to say thanks for having me on for the interview, and look forward to receiving inquiries and questions for future Norway cruises.
Perfect. Thank you.
Bye bye.